The 1980s were a time of bold experimentation in cinema, where filmmakers pushed boundaries and challenged societal norms. Yet, not all these films were welcomed with open arms. Many faced severe censorship, with governments banning prints, raiding video stores, and threatening jail time for those who dared to watch them. These controversial films, filled with shocking violence, dark humor, and unsettling themes, were hidden from the mainstream. But now, decades later, they stream freely on your devices. So, are you ready to uncover the films they tried to suppress? Let's dive into the most disturbing and banned movies from that era. Society, 1989. In the affluent world of Beverly Hills, a young man uncovers a shocking secret. The rich are not just wealthy, they're a completely different species altogether, feeding off the lower class in a grotesque and disturbing ritual known as the shunting. Brian Yuzna's Society wasn't just another horror movie. It was a scathing critique of the Reagan-era wealth divide, where the elite's excesses were exposed in the most stomach-churning way. The film's grotesque body horror scenes were too much for many, and it was banned or heavily cut in multiple countries. Despite the controversy, its brutal critique of capitalism made it a cult classic. The infamous shunting scene, in which wealthy elites melt together in a twisted mass of flesh, was so disturbing that distributors feared its release would spark outrage. What authorities couldn't suppress, however, was its political message. Years after its release, Society gained recognition for its bold vision and subversive commentary on class inequality, offering a brutal and unflinching look at a society that devours itself. Re-Animator, 1985. Re-Animator, a film based on H.P. Lovecraft's work, introduced audiences to Herbert West, a scientist obsessed with reanimating the dead. What began as a dark, twisted take on resurrection quickly spiraled into a macabre comedy, blending horror and dark humor with gory effects that pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable. Authorities didn't know whether to laugh or ban it outright. The film was deemed so shocking that it was released unrated in the US, while countries like Germany and the UK demanded extensive cuts. The film's infamous morgue scene, where a severed head makes a disturbing advance on a woman, shocked viewers and sparked protests from religious groups. Despite the outrage, Re-Animator became a cult hit. Critics were divided, with some calling it an inventive masterpiece and others dismissing it as exploitative. However, its unique combination of horror, humor, and gore made it a defining film of 80s horror, and it's now considered one of the most influential cult classics. The Fly, 1986. David Cronenberg's The Fly is far more than a remake of the 1958 film. It's a chilling exploration of transformation and body horror. The film tells the tragic story of Seth Brundle, a scientist who, after an experiment goes horribly wrong, transforms into a hideous fly-human hybrid. What sets this version apart is Cronenberg's clinical approach to body horror, making Brundle's grotesque transformation both scientifically plausible and deeply disturbing. The film's practical effects were groundbreaking, with Jeff Goldblum's physical deterioration shown in painful, detailed stages. Despite its graphic horror, The Fly wasn't just shocking for its gruesome visuals, it was also a poignant meditation on the decay of the body and the loss of humanity. The film was heavily censored, with scenes like the infamous vomit drop sequence being trimmed or removed in several countries. Though it initially received mixed reactions, over time, The Fly has come to be recognized as one of Cronenberg's finest works, and its uncut version now streams freely, allowing viewers to experience the full terror of Brundle's tragic fall. The Howling, 1981. When journalist Karen White is sent to investigate the gruesome death of a serial killer, she unknowingly stumbles into a pack of werewolves hiding out in a remote commune. The Howling wasn't just a werewolf movie, it was a bold reimagining of werewolf mythology, mixing horror with humor and a critique of societal norms. The film introduced groundbreaking special effects that pushed the boundaries of practical horror, particularly in its famous werewolf transformation scenes. These effects were so realistic and terrifying that international censorship boards couldn't handle them, with several countries demanding cuts or edits before they'd allow the film's release. The film's mix of gore, eroticism, and body horror made it one of the most controversial horror films of the time. Critics were divided, with some hailing it as a masterpiece and others calling it exploitative. However, The Howling eventually gained recognition as one of the most influential werewolf films, with its transformative effects and subversive take on horror making it a landmark in the genre. Phantasm, 1979. Don Coscarelli's Phantasm is a strange and surreal journey into a world where reality and nightmare collide. The film follows a young boy, Mike, as he uncovers the sinister secrets of a local funeral home where the mysterious tall man uses a deadly flying sphere to harvest the dead. Phantasm's dreamlike narrative and nightmarish imagery left audiences both confused and captivated, pushing the boundaries of traditional horror and fantasy. The film's DIY approach, shot on a shoestring budget, only added to its bizarre charm. With a cast of relatively unknown actors and a crew operating on a small budget, Coscarelli created an atmospheric, tension-filled experience that didn't rely on big effects, but on a creeping sense of dread. Its mix of surrealism and horror made it a target for censorship in the UK and Australia, where it faced cuts and even bans. Despite its initial mixed reception, Phantasm gradually gained a cult following through VHS rentals and midnight screenings, becoming a beloved classic. The film's otherworldly tone and eerie, haunting imagery continue to influence horror filmmakers today. Videodrome, 1983. David Cronenberg's Videodrome didn't just push the boundaries of horror, it predicted the future of media manipulation. The film follows Max Wren, a cable TV programmer who stumbles upon a signal that causes violent hallucinations in its viewers. As Max delves deeper into the mystery, he begins to question his own reality. The film's disturbing imagery, like a man inserting a videotape into a pulsating opening in his stomach, shocked audiences and faced immediate censorship. What frightened authorities wasn't just the violence, but Cronenberg's chillingly accurate critique of media control and the effects of television on the human psyche. Videodrome was heavily censored around the world, with multiple cuts demanded by international boards. Yet the film's unsettling predictions about media and technology made it a landmark in the genre. Today, Videodrome is considered a prophetic film, predicting not only the rise of the internet, but also the dark side of media consumption, which feels more relevant than ever. Robocop, 1987. Robocop might seem like a standard 80s action flick, but it's a savage satire wrapped in an ultra-violent package. Set in a dystopian future where corporate greed and corruption reign, the film follows Alex Murphy, a cop turned into a machine, as he seeks justice in a city on the brink of collapse. The film's over-the-top violence made it a target for censorship, especially with the brutal execution of Murphy early in the film. International authorities, including those in Germany and the UK, demanded cuts, fearing the film's graphic content would encourage real-world violence. But what really set Robocop apart was its subversive critique of consumerism and corporate control. The filmmakers used shocking violence not for exploitation, but to underscore the film's anti-capitalist themes. Despite initial backlash, Robocop became a commercial success and earned recognition as one of the most intelligent and politically relevant sci-fi films of the decade. Today, it's celebrated for its unique blend of action, humor, and social commentary. Evil Dead 2, 1987. Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2 cranked up the chaos, gore, and dark humor from the original Evil Dead and became a cult classic. But this time, the horror is paired with absurd slapstick comedy. The film's outrageous violence and outrageous visual effects caused international uproar. In Germany, over 7 minutes of footage were cut, including some of the most iconic scenes, like the eye-popping moment and Ash's girlfriend's decapitation. The British censorship board also demanded cuts, citing concerns about the impact of such violent imagery. Despite the challenges, Raimi's vision ultimately prevailed, and Evil Dead 2 became a hit. Its combination of horror and humor reshaped the genre and earned it a dedicated fan base. Today, Evil Dead 2 streams in its full, restored glory, solidifying its place as one of the most influential horror comedies ever made. Day of the Dead, 1985. George Romero's Day of the Dead pushed the limits of on-screen horror, presenting a world ravaged by a zombie apocalypse. Unlike its predecessors, Day of the Dead focuses on the survivors' struggle not only with the undead, but also with their own unraveling humanity. The film's graphic violence, particularly the groundbreaking practical effects by Tom Savini, were so shocking that the MPAA threatened it with an X rating, forcing Romero to cut over 15 minutes of footage. The film was banned or heavily edited in several countries, including Germany and the UK. But beyond the gore, Day of the Dead explores a bleak vision of society, with Romero offering a stark critique of military authority and the collapse of civilization. Despite mixed critical reviews upon release, the film later found recognition as one of the most relevant and profound zombie films, with its bleak, nihilistic tone resonating more as time passed. Today, it's hailed as one of Romero's most underappreciated masterpieces. An American Werewolf in London, 1981. John Landis's An American Werewolf in London forever changed the werewolf genre with its innovative special effects and genre-bending approach. The film follows two American tourists who are attacked by a werewolf on the English moors, leading one to become a werewolf himself. What made the film stand out was its unique blend of horror and comedy, balancing gruesome transformation sequences with dark humor. The iconic werewolf transformation scene created by Rick Baker was groundbreaking and so realistic that it became a new standard in horror effects. However, this realism made it controversial, with British censors demanding cuts to the transformation sequence. Germany banned the film outright, and other countries imposed their own censorship. Despite initial confusion among critics and a modest box office performance, An American Werewolf in London went on to earn a cult following. Today, the film is recognized for its genius in combining horror with humor and its groundbreaking effects, which earned Rick Baker the first ever Academy Award for Best Makeup. The Thing, 1982. John Carpenter's The Thing didn't just shock audiences, it terrified them into isolation. The film takes place at a research station in Antarctica, where a team of scientists discovers an alien creature that can imitate any organism it encounters. The creature's ability to take on the form of its victims creates an atmosphere of paranoia and distrust, as no one can be sure who is human and who is not. The film's graphic, groundbreaking special effects were so disturbing that many countries, including Germany, demanded cuts before releasing it. Even in the US, theaters struggled with the film's bleak tone, and test audiences were repelled by the gruesome sequences. Despite its box office failure and initial critical backlash, The Thing has since become one of the most influential horror films ever made. Its practical effects, still regarded as some of the best in film history, continue to inspire filmmakers, and the film's theme of distrust and isolation has become more relevant than ever. Hellraiser, 1987. Clive Barker's Hellraiser isn't just a horror film, it's an exploration of pain, pleasure, and the boundaries of human experience. The film introduces the Cenobites, a group of interdimensional beings who embrace both extreme agony and pleasure, leading to one of the most controversial mythologies in horror. The movie centers on a family who becomes entangled with the magical puzzle box that opens the doorway to these hellish creatures. The combination of eroticism and gore was too much for censorship boards, leading to cuts in several countries, including the US and the UK. What disturbed authorities wasn't just the violence, it was Barker's refusal to moralize, presenting pain as a potentially transcendent experience. Despite initial outrage and mixed critical reception, Hellraiser became a cult classic, spawning multiple sequels. Today, it's hailed as a groundbreaking film that redefined the horror genre, pushing boundaries both in content and philosophy. From Beyond, 1986. Stuart Gordon's From Beyond is a nightmarish fusion of body horror and eroticism that went too far for many censorship boards. Loosely based on an H.P. Lovecraft short story, the film explores the consequences of a machine that stimulates the pineal gland, allowing its users to perceive other dimensions and the grotesque horrors within. The film's graphic imagery, particularly the grotesque transformations and disturbing erotic scenes, led to multiple international bans and severe cuts, especially in Germany and the UK. But it was this very transgression that made From Beyond a standout in the body horror genre. With its disturbing practical effects and dark, surreal atmosphere, the film has since become a cult classic, celebrated for its boldness and its uncanny ability to blend horror with sexuality in ways that felt revolutionary for its time. Near Dark, 1987. Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark is a gritty, genre-defying vampire film that merges the supernatural with Western outlaw themes. The story follows a young man who is turned into a vampire and forced to join a nomadic group of bloodsuckers who roam the American Midwest. The film was controversial for its subversive portrayal of vampires, not as supernatural creatures, but as a disease, a concept that resonated with the fears surrounding the AIDS crisis at the time. This allegorical take, combined with the film's brutal violence, led to censorship issues, particularly in countries like Germany and Australia, which cut significant portions of the film. Though initially a commercial failure, Near Dark gradually built a devoted following, becoming a cult classic that was far ahead of its time in both its portrayal of vampire lore and its refusal to conform to genre conventions. They Live, 1988. John Carpenter's They Live might have been censored for its radical political message more than its violence. The film follows a drifter who discovers a pair of sunglasses that allow him to see the hidden messages in the media, subliminal instructions like obey and consume that reveal an alien conspiracy controlling society. While the film's anti-capitalist themes made it controversial, it was the biting critique of consumerism and the media that really struck a nerve with distributors. The film faced significant cuts in international markets, particularly in Germany and Australia, which cut significant portions of the film. Though initially a commercial failure, They Live gradually built a devoted following, becoming a cult classic with its famous line, "I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum," becoming a symbol of rebellion. Today, it's widely regarded as one of the most insightful and prescient political thrillers, with its message about media manipulation and economic inequality resonating more now than ever. These films, once censored and hidden, now stand as proof of the power of art to challenge, provoke, and change society. What was once considered too dangerous for audiences is now celebrated as groundbreaking cinema. The question remains, what will future generations look back on and ask, why did they try to hide that? Until then, these masterpieces continue to shock, inspire, and push the limits of film. Which one will you watch first? Drop a comment below and let us know.